Welcome, I'm Rabbi Phil Bressler of Beit Am in Corvallis, Oregon, and this is the daily summary video for the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch Yomi Daily Halakha Learning Project, covering the passage from Siman 80, Seif 68, to Siman 80, Seif 76. You can find links to the Hebrew and English text of this passage and to the calendar of upcoming passages in this video's description. Still talking about Melachot on Shabbat for a few more days. At last, though, we get the rest of our answer from yesterday. In the case of a door that's kind of ramshackle and rarely used, if there's no mark where a hinge used to be, meaning this was never a functional door, it's just a slab of some kind that's blocking an entryway, it's forbidden to close it on Shabbat, because that would be the equivalent of building. It's like you're adding to that permanent structure of the building. If you go out through a door and it breaks off entirely, obviously you can't repair it on Shabbat. We'll talk about that prohibition a little later on. But if it's a regular entrance or exit, then it's okay to keep opening and closing that door on Shabbat, because you're obviously not building anything new. Even though you got to physically take the door and put it back in place, it's not going to look like construction. Similarly, closing a door that's made of only a single plank, that looks a lot like building, since we usually build one plank at a time. But if it's, again, a regular entrance or exit and it's obvious that it's a doorway, then it's okay. Shutting windows is a similar issue. If a shutter is regularly used, or even if it's just been used once before prior to Shabbat, that counts as ordinary usage and it doesn't count as building. If you've got a door or a window, though, that easily comes off of its hinges, don't be taking it on or off on Shabbat. That would count as either number 34 building or number 35 demolishing. Let's talk about sweeping the floor. Remember, classical halakha isn't imagining linoleum floors and brooms with synthetic bristles like in some of our kitchens. It lives in a world of dirt floors and brooms that are made basically from reeds or straw. So sweeping on Shabbat would create multiple concerns. The first would be, for melacha number 1, plowing, because the broom would make furrows in the dirt as you swept. And the other main thing would be either number 8 grinding, number 20 unraveling, or number 24 tearing with those bristles of the broom that are liable to break. So the Kitzur says no sweeping at all on Shabbat unless you have a non-Jew do it, or you do it with some kind of shinui, some kind of a twist. I gotta say, other sources though clarify though that if solid floors are common where you live, you have them in your city, and so there's no worry that someone's gonna mistake your solid floor for a dirt one, and your brush bristles aren't going to break, then it's okay to actually do sweeping. It's not melacha. Seif number 74 is kind of curious. We already know you're not supposed to spit on the dirt, because that would be melacha number 2, sewing. But the Kitzur says also don't rub saliva into the ground once it's already there, like with your foot. I guess that maybe that's worry about melacha number 13, scouring, although it's not totally clear to me what the concern might be here. Don't urinate in a plowed field on Shabbat. Now, at first I thought this might be a concern about number 2, sowing, but then I remembered urine is acidic and it's bad for plants, so now I'm thinking maybe it's either that killing the plants is kind of like number 3, reaping, or just the fact that the field is plowed, that's important, and urinating in it is sort of like plowing it further. Or maybe it's just generally destructive to urinate on crop-producing fields. The Kitzur says this is prohibited even on weekdays if you're going to go do it in someone else's field. So it seems like the destructive aspect would be important. It would be like you're going and destroying someone else's property. Finally, Seif 76 is long and complex, but the main idea is that setting up partitions, like with curtains or those sort of folding accordion type things, what they call Spanish windows or Spanish doors, that's only okay to do when it doesn't constitute creating a new separate domain. We're going to talk in a lot more detail in a few days about the different kinds of domains, but I guess the main reason you'd want to do something like this is either to have sex or to poop. Both of these things are actions the Kitzur assumes that you shouldn't do in places where it's fully lit or where there are sforim, those are holy books, present. So just putting up a partition, though, to provide shade or as a windbreak, that's totally fine. You're not creating a new domain for that. That's all for today. As always, our learning is dedicated to Rabbi Shlomo Gansfried, the author of the Kitzur, and the historic Jewish community of Uzhhorod, Ukraine. See you tomorrow.